So today I'm working on my first Finecast model. There's certainly been a lot of discussion since the release of these resin kits, and I've seen a lot of reviews about them, both pro and con. But this is the first time I've ever had a chance to work with one myself. Now this is Commander Dante. This is the last model for the current commission that I'm working on, and so I'm really curious to see how this is going to, how this is all going to turn out. I've already pulled off his jump pack, and I was reasonably happy with the quality. The only issues were here in the corners of the jump pack. There's a couple little air bubbles, but nothing that I was too concerned about. That should be easily filled with putty, and I'll be doing that later. What everybody's been, if you've read about these, one of the things people say is that how a knife will cut through this stuff like butter, and that is certainly true. I cut off these little tabs from the slata part of the model in no time at all. And look here, just imagine how hard this is with metal. I'm just going to cut through this with my knife. There, done. And you can shave this stuff too. It's kind of amazing. This is actually the softest resin that I've ever worked with. I've done a lot of resin casting in years gone by, and it's normally harder than this, more brittle than this. This is pretty soft stuff. So far I wouldn't say too soft, but it does it would concern me if I was doing something with a say large wings, or you hear that squeak? Large wings, or a huge weapon. I would be concerned about bending. But for something this size, I don't think it's a problem at all. Now, you might have heard that if you get these things warm at all, that they will bend, and that is certainly a factor with resin kits of any kind. No matter what kind of resin you're using, heat will tend to soften the resin and cause it to bend, and so in order to get it back, then you need to heat it back up and bend it into place. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But yeah, and it would be somewhat worrisome with this soft material. But we'll have to see, And this is all coming apart very easily. The clipper is not required here. But I certainly would be careful with the knife, because it's all it's just dropping through this stuff like butter. And there's all the pieces. It's freed up. Let's take a look at the details here. I see mold line. Ooh, that one's going to be, this mold line in here is not going to be any fun. That'll clean up. That'll clean up fine here. I don't see any air bubbles on this, which is kind of cool. Some flash that needs to go. But overall, happy with that. What about the gun? Let's take a look at the gun. Well, that needs to be drilled. The barrel needs to be drilled, but that's as usual. Looks fine. No problems here. So yeah, the only thing that's going to be a real problem is that shoulder pad. But even that doesn't look to be too bad. That is going to be a little troublesome. Really more time consuming than anything, I think. Alright, well, I'm going to go get to it, and then I will report back on my progress. So I've got this all cleaned up, primed, and ready to paint. And I gotta say, aside from the little bit of flexibility in the axe here, pretty happy with it. I think it assembled well. Cleaned up fine. It takes more time. The resin models take more time to clean up than the metal ones. The metal ones, if you have issues, it's generally flash, and so you're sort of working down. But when you have to fill pinholes, well, that takes more time because you gotta mix up your putty, you gotta get it in there, you gotta shape it. Once it's cured out, then you have to trim it, maybe sand it, and that takes more time. So regardless of how overall nice the casting is, if it has little air bubbles, well, that's going to take a little time to work on. But the model itself is fine. I've got it pinned here at the foot. That's going to go into the base. I've got another base for it. And that's pretty much it. So as I work on this guy later, I will provide more updates on how it's going. But at this point, I mean, really, honestly, from this point on, it's going to be fairly much the same as painting a metal model. So the fact that it's Finecast will really make no difference. And that's one thing I've noticed in looking at other Finecast models is once you have paint on them, coat of primer, coat of paint, it looks like anything else. I mean, they really don't stand out as being, particularly good or clean castings. The metal models look great once you get primer and paint on them, and same thing here. So there you go. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.